Hi everyone, welcome back to IR Unfiltered. Today we have a very special guest on this episode, Tara Hariharan. Miss Tara Hariharan is Managing Director and Head of Research at NWI Management LP, a hedge fund based in New York. Tara is here to discuss the Chinese economy and the importance of China to the global economy and geopolitics.
Thank you, Amia, for having me on your incredibly informative podcast.
Okay, for the first question, you've been quoted widely as an expert on China. How did you first develop your interest in China's economy and geopolitics?
As the head of research for a hedge fund that invests worldwide, I learned very quickly that China is a vital country to track regardless of what investments you are making. This is because the Chinese economy and China's geopolitical ambitions affect hundreds of metrics in the investing world, either directly or indirectly, whether it be the US stock market, the Indian rupee, or any company's balance sheet. So I started closely watching Chinese economic developments all the way back in 2010. That's 15 years now. I began by understanding the basics of Chinese monetary and fiscal policies, economic growth, inflation, and trade statistics. I also was watching China's ambitions expand in its investments into Asia, Africa, and Latin America, both for economic and geopolitically strategic purposes. So all these dynamics intrigued me about China's role as an economic superpower that could possibly rival the US in many aspects. In fact, just recently, a lot of policy shifts have occurred in US-China relations, based on an increasing concern by US authorities that China was not only seeking to compete with the US economically, but also in terms of technological sophistication and military prowess. Now, we could have a whole podcast just on US-China military competition, including the risk that China invades Taiwan to reunite it with mainland China. But for now, I'll just say that these geopolitical developments fascinated me. And in the last several years, as a member of several foreign policy think tanks, I have explored these issues and learned a lot from government officials and experts in both the US and China. Also, I separately studied for a graduate certificate in foreign policy with a focus on US-China relations. And thanks to a leadership development program, even traveled to Taiwan recently and met the president and the foreign ministry. Through these experiences, I have acquired enough expertise to write and speak about the Chinese economy and US-China relations in various public venues, including on TV, to help inform audiences like the listeners of this podcast.
Now, if you had to explain China's place in the global economy to a teenager such as myself in under a minute, what would you say?
Oh, that is a tough question to answer in a minute. China plays a central role globally as the second largest economy after the US. It's a manufacturing powerhouse, producing and exporting goods at a huge scale and at low cost. In recent years, China has also dominated technological advancement in industries like electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, and 5G networks. China is additionally a huge consumer and a key importer of goods, including luxury items and technology. Indeed, its huge demand for commodities like oil, soybean, and copper impact global prices. While not as widely used as the US dollar, the Chinese yuan is increasingly used in global trade, and China's investment through the Belt and Road Initiative connects it with markets across Asia, Europe, and Africa. However, all of this has created both opportunities and challenges for other nations, which we can discuss more about.
Okay. And what are some common misconceptions about China's economic role that you often see in the media or in public discussions?
So, a key misconception is that China's economic model is entirely based on manufacturing and exporting low-cost goods. Over the past decade, China has actually attempted to transition from a manufacturing and export-led economy to one focused on innovation and high-tech, plus consumption and services. To this end, China has massively invested in research and development and focused on sectors like artificial intelligence, 5G technology, and electric vehicles. Also, China's tech supply chain goes all the way from sourcing raw materials to the finished product, which is something almost no others have achieved. Another misconception is that China's economy is purely state-controlled. The Chinese government does have significant influence over all economic activities, and in past years has enacted policies that have not been supportive of the private sector. However, many of the biggest, most successful companies like Alibaba, Tencent, BYD, and ByteDance are private firms that are now making global headlines in tech innovation. Thirdly, there is a strong belief that China's economic and geopolitical rise is completely bad for the rest of the world, be it the US, but also for poorer nations. True, China has created huge trade imbalances with most countries, given their high dependence on China's exports. And the US does have concerns about China's possibly stealing know-how. There are also long-standing value differences between democratic and autocratic political and economic systems. However, China's growth has helped lift millions in developing countries out of poverty, and China making low-cost goods and now technology for the world is something that all of us benefit from.
Now, there's a lot of debate about whether China's economic growth is slowing. What's your take and why does it matter globally?
China's economic growth, although still faster than most other major countries, is clearly slowing due to structural challenges. One factor is its aging population. China's earlier one-child policy has shrunk its workforce, requiring more automation and productivity gains in order to maintain growth rates. Another key challenge is the ongoing trade tensions with the US and other countries, which have led to tariffs and disrupted supply chains. Many US and foreign companies now actively seek alternatives to Chinese manufacturing, particularly in the tech sector. At the same time, China is trying to rebalance its economic model away from exports and investment towards consumption and higher value-added technology. This transition is necessary for long-term sustainability because overinvestment in manufacturing has now led to unproductive activity and excess supply. But short-term, the transition to a consumption-led model is tough, as the Chinese consumer is not eager to spend because the jobs market in China is weak and because people's store of wealth is largely in the real estate markets, which are now in a slump. The global impact of China's slowdown is significant, as many countries, especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, are heavily dependent on China for trade, investment, and economic cooperation. China's lower demand for raw materials will hurt global commodity prices and reduce investment in infrastructure and development projects that are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And this is all coming at a time when most nations are already having to deal with the US tariff regime, post-COVID pandemic growth issues, climate change, and demographic shifts.
Okay, and how does China's domestic economic policies, like its technology, manufacturing strategies, impact global markets? And similarly, how do Chinese political decisions influence global financial markets as a whole?
So this is a great question, Amia. Chinese domestic economic policies have an outsized impact on global markets due to its size and integration into the global economy and the recent policy focus in China on some key emerging sectors. For example, China's push to dominate the electric vehicle market has led to the rise of companies like BYD and pushed traditional automakers globally to shift towards electric mobility. Hence, global automobile, energy sectors, and even mining, so that they can get raw materials, are all being reshaped by China's policies. Similarly, the Chinese government's heavy financial and regulatory support for Chinese 5G and artificial intelligence firms helped them challenge once dominant American and European companies. Relatedly, there are concerns in the US and in Europe over risks to their national security from Chinese surveillance or spying through its telecom and technology companies. Another fear is that trade and geopolitical tensions could make Chinese policies more hostile to foreign companies who are now doing business and working in China. China's domestic policies additionally influence global financial markets through other channels. If the government decides to devalue the Chinese yuan, that is, to depreciate it in order to make Chinese goods cheaper, it actually disadvantages other countries and companies that compete in global markets. Similarly, China's regulations on real estate or tech can also unsettle global markets because international investors invest in China and Chinese companies have economic ties all around the world. In 2021, for example, the Chinese crackdown on tech companies like Alibaba and also the real estate crisis that was surrounding the property developer Evergrande actually caused significant volatility in global stock markets as investors started to worry about China's economic stability.
And in your view, how have US-China relations shifted over the past decade, and what might that mean for the future?
Now, this is a question that could take hours to answer, but I will try to be brief. Over the past decade, US-China relations have become increasingly competitive and strained, marked by trade disputes, geopolitical tensions, and technology wars. Under President Obama, the US and China mostly cooperated in areas like climate change and trade. However, tensions started to rise during the first Trump administration, which imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, accusing China of unfair trade practices such as intellectual property theft and currency manipulation. China then retaliated with tariffs on American goods, and that led to a full-fledged trade war. Despite the Phase 1 trade deal that was signed in 2020, tensions have mounted ever since. Under the Biden administration, the US maintained a tough stance on China, especially limiting China's access to critical technology like advanced semiconductors in order to prevent China from getting a competitive edge. And as we are seeing right now, the second Trump administration has further raised tariffs and export controls on China, although perhaps some deals are also being made, like an agreement just now possibly to divest TikTok's US arm away from Chinese control. The US-China geopolitical rivalry has also extended beyond trade into areas like the South China Sea, Taiwan, and human rights. Admittedly, no one can predict the future of US-China relations. Some analysts are suggesting there will be a Cold War scenario where both countries compete in multiple spheres without active military conflict. However, I wonder whether cold peace is possible, where both sides realize how vitally integrated they are, and then they cooperate on at least a few key issues like global health, climate, and supporting the developing world.
And now, how does China, according to you, how does China's engagement with the emerging markets differ from its approach to already developed economies?
This is an extremely important question, and it's very important for the work that I do on a daily basis. China's approaches to emerging markets and developed economies are quite distinct, although I would say in both cases, China is aiming to expand its global economic and geostrategic influence. With emerging markets, China focuses on infrastructure development and resource extraction. Through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, which I have mentioned earlier, China has invested heavily in building roads, railways, ports, and energy infrastructure in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. These investments are not only intended to help those countries develop, but also to create long-term economic ties with China, which gives Beijing a strategic edge and even sometimes a military foothold in those regions. In contrast, China's engagement with developed economies like the US, Japan, and Europe is more focused on trade, technology, and finance. While China still does import some raw materials and energy from these countries, it is increasingly interested in high-tech industries, financial markets, and innovation. In particular, China has sought to establish partnerships in sectors like semiconductors, telecommunications, and electric vehicles, and has used its massive investment power to try to buy stakes in Western companies. Related to this, there is a recent concern that China has been attempting to sell its overcapacity, which is namely the excess supply of goods that it produces, into Western markets at low prices that are undercutting the domestic companies in those markets. So, in sum, China's approach to developing economies is more seen as political in nature, seeking to expand its global influence through soft power and through infrastructure projects. With developed economies, however, China's approach is more economic and competitive, and as I mentioned, it is focusing on market access, technology, and access to intellectual property.
Okay, and now just as a final question to sum everything up, for young people in countries like India, like me, why is it important to understand China's economic struggle?
This is a crucial question, and I hope my answer will inspire some of the young people watching this podcast. It is crucial for India's youth to understand China's economic strategies because their huge neighbors' decisions directly impact their future in many ways. For one, China's focus on innovation and technology is shaping all the key industries of the future. Be it in sectors like artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, or renewable energy, China's aggressive push to lead in these areas means that India's young people face increased competition in these fields. That said, there are also opportunities for collaboration in technology and manufacturing, and there are many ways that young Indians can learn from China about how to build strong supply chains. China's economic strategies also influence Indian trade patterns. China's demand for raw materials, particularly commodities like oil, coal, and metals, have a significant impact on global prices, which in turn affect India's economy because it exports and imports many of these same commodities. India's industries and consumers are additionally dependent on many imported inputs from China. And furthermore, we must watch China's growing dominance in Asia and its regional influence through the Belt and Road Initiative. And all of this means that India must adapt to the shifting balance of power in the region, both economically and geostrategically. As China becomes more assertive in its geopolitical and economic initiatives, India will need to carefully manage its relationship with China and try to both balance cooperation with the economic and military competition. In this context, it is especially fascinating nowadays how US tariffs and shifting geopolitical allegiances on the part of the US itself might even end up bringing India and China closer together, despite the complicated past that India and China have regarding tensions over the border and, of course, the concerns that we have had for a long time about China possibly outcompeting Indian manufacturing.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I had planned for today. Thank you so much for joining me and for coming on to the podcast. We're so grateful for having you here today.
Thank you, and so delighted to be here, Amia. Thank you again.
Well, that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow our podcast and share it with a friend who may enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening.